for him or we'll start? Yeah. Hi guys, this is Sheetal here. Thank you for joining at IGDC 2025. We have a very interesting panel here and talking about self-publishing and what's the difference between publishing and publishing a game by yourself and with a publisher. So we have a wide range, very interesting panel with lots of experience in gaming. And I'm going to start introducing myself. My name is Sheetal Bairamadgi. I'm from Crikey Game Studio, a mobile gaming studio based in Sydney, Australia. So I have published a game with Crazy Labs in 2020. 2021, and then now I'm working on my own game, self-publishing. So the reason for this panel is to share my experience on both sides, what it means publishing a game yourself and what it means when you publish the game with a gaming publisher. So without further ado, I want to introduce the team, introduce the panel here. Maybe you can go first.
Yeah, hi. I'm Tejas. I'm filling in for Yuraj. So I'm founder of the App Gurus, and we are based out of Rajkot. We are doing both the self-publishing part and working with the publishers. So hopefully we'll have a good discussion.
Hi everyone.
Go closer. Closer to the mic.
Hi everyone. So I'm Rohith. I'm co-founder of Airoclip, in a Bangalore-based fintech startup. We make casual puzzle games that adapt to the player. So being self-publishing.
Your mic is not working.
Should I start from scratch again?
Yes.
Yeah.
So hey folks, I'm Rohith. I'm co-founder of Airoclip, a Bangalore-based game tech studio. We make casual puzzle games that adapt, and we have experience to each player using AI and ML. Thank you.
Hey folks, my name is Anurag. I've been in this industry for as long as I've been running this company, Felicity. Before that, I had experiences across e-commerce and food delivery, but it's a long story as to why I got here. But largely, we are building a publishing business. Our focus is on casual games with long-term retention, and UA and analytics are some of our core skill sets. Largely, we have one of the titles, which is a solitaire, which is in the top 50 card games in the US market. Yep.
Hi everyone, Santosh here from Stellarplay Games. We are a 4.5-year-old studio. We make casual games. We are also based out of Bangalore. We started with board games, but now we make much more of the casual games. So we have a couple of traffic games, a hidden object game, and like a jigsaw game that you can try out.
Yeah. Perfect. Maybe Tejas, will start with you on the game development side. Building a prototype. What is the main process for you that you see in your studio? How do you start? Where does the concept come from? How do you execute? When do you test? When do you kill? When you decide to kill? And if you can run through the process, that would be great for the audience here.
Yeah, sure. There's no fixed process as such, but broadly, if I speak, there are two kinds of things we do. First is we do market research and we see what games are trending and what are the upcoming genres which we can try. So we make a basic rough prototype based on that. We test the game, we see the retention numbers and things. And we run some basic level CPI test. And if the numbers are good, we'll take the game forward and we try to scale that game. And let's say even after some time, if it does not work, let's say 3 months or within 6 months, we'll take a call that whether we want to go forward or not. And at that point in time, if the game does not work well, we'll kill it. And the second part is passion projects. We don't have any time bound on that because I believe a lot of good things and the things which are new will come out of that. So for that, those kind of games, we don't have any particular time frame in our mind, but generally it takes around a year or two. And those are generally bigger games. And we keep on running them. And generally we basically make break even. And if that game works well, I think that can become a breakout hit for us. So we and if it doesn't work, we actually learn something that we should not do this or we should not do that. So at least that is a good or positive outcome for us. Yeah.
And do you make notes for future projects as well? Is it all documented somewhere? Of these are the things that you should not be doing, you should be doing for future projects?
Basically, we are a small team, not too big. So it basically, like, we don't document it written, like in forms of writing or anything, but we generally know like what to do and what not to do.
Right.
So that is like how it works for us.
Can you shed some light on prototyping, like ideas, where does the concept of the game come from?
Generally, like as I told you, like there are like two kinds of things. So there are some projects or some games which we have like played in the past, or like some kind of things which we want to make. So it generally comes in a like it's more in form of the ideas, and we try few things, and we like we keep on iterating, and then we find out something which is like fun to play. So that one part of it. The second part of it would be like if we are like imitating some game or like trying to get into some kind of genre. So there will be players which are like already established. So in that way, we don't have to iterate too much. We know like what we are looking for, and like technically we are like sound, so we can like go for that. Creating experience or like cracking that part is little difficult, but generally it takes lesser time. So that is how we go.
Very interesting. Yep. Let's move on to the topic of self-publishing. What does a studio actually need to do for going to self-publishing in this environment where you need a lot of money? So
I think you're like,
if somebody can take that as a question, what does self-publishing mean, and where do you start with?
So yeah, I mean, I can start and you guys can pitch in, right? So self-publishing is essentially when you take your games and then you yourself you are trying to do, the marketing for it, whether it's social, whether it's like, usually paid UA. And it'll usually be, networks like Meta, Google, like AppLovin, Unity, etc., right? So, so that's the core of self-publishing, because unlike working with publishers, you get to keep, if you can make it profitable, you get to keep all the money, right? Like, so, and that's why, people get into self-publishing. I mean, I think the process of getting into self-publishing involves you jumping through multiple learning hoops, right? The first learning hoop is how confident or what does data tell you objectively about your game making ability, right? So if you've already, passed that, then you know that that's not a risk, and then you can think of self-publishing. Then you need to get into, understanding channel risks, right? Publishing involves multiple things, creative production, channel, understanding optimizations of various campaign types, break-even windows, data, like Anurag was saying. And so second is, how can you figure out learning about that? And then the third thing would come in is capital, and how does it work with your own finances, right, as a company itself, right? So that's the journey, like at a very high level. Maybe you guys can add more flavor.
Yeah, I think just to add to Santosh's point, right, the major is a mindset change, right? If you are self-publishing, you should look at it very scientifically. That's the most important thing. Everything you are going to do in the game, you have to hypothesize why you are building thing, what are you building for, and how this is going to work, right? So start from there, and you have to build a foundation, as Santosh mentioned. You have to build a great foundation of data and on those things, and that's very important.
Are there basic steps that you need to look at in terms of especially the budgeting, because all these things are taken care by the publisher in another case where you are only focused on development, right? When you are doing self-publishing, now you're in charge of the creatives, you're in charge of the MMP costs, you're in charge of the marketing costs, now maintaining and keeping invoices, paying them invoices. Is it easier to be on the just ship the game to a publisher? Yes, you're going to make less money, or is it interesting to actually is it more to do work on your own games and do self-publishing? Which one do you think is easier?
I mean, I'll just speak because we also have built games which we self-publish. So rather, the main thing here is, effectively all of these are just like CapEx costs, right? In a way that, a good engineering team, good analytics infrastructure, the right tools, all of these are quintessential to play the game, because you are competing with folks who already have all of this, right? So it's if one has to go towards the self-publishing route, even so one has to be mindful that in today's day and age, the cost of testing the game on real metrics is actually higher than cost of building the game, right? So you need to have enough capital as well as some of these, tooling infrastructure in place in order for you to objectively take a call as to whether a game which you built out of passion has to be pursued further or not, right? So given this, depending on, some studios actually have a cash cow. So,
Yes.
and some of the studios that I've met typically leverage that cash cow to make these investments. Some studios perhaps, are able to raise money. But largely, I think in today's day and age, the truth is that unless and until you have some means to access, at least like $100,000 to $200,000 upfront to kind of put aside beyond the game building, it's difficult to break out. And if, let's say, you're building a first game and you don't have that, then perhaps you're better off going to a publisher and getting, creating that corpus before you start investing into self-publishing, if you don't have any other means to get to that. So that's how I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll give some different perspective over here. What happened, like we started out very early. So 2019 was our like first game. So at that point in time, organic downloads were like quite huge. And that is the only reason we went for self-publishing. We generally don't like to work with publishers because it brings a lot of extra, logistics involved. But having said that, when we try to publish now, there are a lot more challenges involved. We are basically game developers. So, developing games and publishing games are altogether like different things. So we had to learn through a lot of new things, which I think a lot of people don't understand, basically when they're developers. So I think that is the question one need to ask, whether they want to go with publisher or not. If you're ready to learn, if you want to have a large pie of your profit sharing with you, you can do that. If not, better to go with publishers.
And I think, this is the new, I haven't seen the paradigm when organics were a thing, because I started building in gaming 2 years back when user acquisition was quintessential, but rather whatever I've triangulated, and for some people who are still starting out, the difference fundamentally before 2021 and now is that previously, if you built an incredibly good game, Google and App Store would give you first set of organic users.
Yep.
And if your game had incredibly good metrics, which it would, because you were a seasoned game, product manager or a game design team who had built this game, there was a virtuous loop which was set in wherein you got even more organic installs because your product was superior compared to others on the Play stores, right? And thus, the entire industry belonged to the best of product managers and game designers. Post 2021, post IDFA, everyone has become a spray advertiser. Organics are dead. So this is a new paradigm to which, or rather a reset to which everyone is adjusting. Wherein even if you are the most talented team, you cannot get your first user without paying $1, right?
Yep.
And previously, when you got users organically, those users were primed to your genre of the game. For example, you built a Match 3 game, Play Store knows everything about who plays Match 3. So they would get you Match 3 users. But today, when you crank up a Google Ads account or a Mintegral Ads account, you have no clue where this user is coming from, right? So yeah, that's the reason why the paradigm has changed to, that's why the statement that I made earlier, the cost of testing the game is higher than cost of building the game.
True that.
But fundamentally still a good product will win versus, let's say, an average one, right? So it's just that the economics of the business have changed a little.
That's great. That's a great input. Like the product always wins. Coming to the topic of India going to India to the world. What does like an indie studio sitting in the audience here need to do to go global? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? What do they look at in terms of budgeting? Obviously, they don't have the experience of the Western world. So is there something, extra that we need to do, the developers here need to do so that they can understand the global market better? So if you can shed some light on that.
I'll try to start, maybe I'll add it in two parts because I just want to add on to something that you had asked in the last question. So what extra do I think the Indian developers, like at least everybody I've spoken to, are very keyed into the global market, right? Because actually the business of game making, like a bulk of them are actually aware of, and like both our games get published everywhere in the world and are competing everywhere in the world. And you're looking at competitors everywhere in the world. And, also obviously in the Indian market, India-focused games are also looking at, competing with those. So I think in terms of their awareness of what's happening in the market or the awareness of the kind of ads those publishers are running, I think, like I feel that the developers are still much more aware of that than the other piece in self-publishing, which is your last question, right? Which is some of the tools that still need to be done, right? For analytics, you need to have great Firebase or BigQuery, which is a free tool, right? I mean, BigQuery you need to pay as you scale, but you need to do that. The other cost head, I think Anurag touched upon it briefly, is creative production. Creative production itself will be a big thing. Like if you go after Google, you have to make different ads than when you go after Meta. And it's completely different from AppLovin. AppLovin won't work without making playables. So you need to actually make playables ads as well. So creative production itself becomes a large cost head. In the morning we were discussing this, and back-end engineering, right? If you are mainly going to make revenue out of ads, then you need some kind of a mediation platform, and you need to plug in so many networks to make money, and you need to maintain those, right? So that also is an engineering bandwidth cost, right? So there are all these things that you need to be aware of, and then obviously skill set, which layer on these basic tools, skill set of being able to read data and interpret what are profitable campaigns, where can you take risk, etc., and so on.
Yeah, I think just to add to Santosh's point, one other viewpoint, right? So we know we can develop games. There is no question about that one, right? But the point is, how good are you at a particular game? Like, I'm talking about design and development. I'm come to UA bit, which Santosh spoke upon, right? So the only way we can become better at design and developing games is we have a depth of that particular genre or game, right? So it means you have to, let's say you want to make an ideal game, for example, right? You have to play at least 500 hours of ideal games to get an idea how ideal games are working in the market, how they are designing, how are they thinking about development and stuff like that one, right? It starts from there, and you have to connect the same design bit to your creatives also, right? So you have to rigorously, I say religiously have to spend time playing those games. There is no option over there, right? You have to play top games, you have to play new upcoming games and all those things. So if you're not doing that, you will come with some other hypothesis which is not tested in the market, you most likely will fail, right? So keep on playing those games, like spend so much time playing the games, you become an expert in that game, right? So that is one missing, again, this is something which I feel all of us should do, all the studios, big and small, should do this one. Right? And that is where most of the learning will come for us.
So you're talking about like ideation sessions, playing more games, figuring it out what works and what doesn't in other games, and then come up with a plan to promote your own, build your own game. That's amazing. Now, just coming back to the user acquisition costs. I think when we're talking about self-publishing, I'm sure whoever has tried in this room will know the biggest cost is the marketing cost for self-publishing. Like, is there a minimum amount that you need to start self-publishing or be confident that you will have data and you can scale? Is there, some kind of indication in terms, I'm just talking about just UA, from the UA user acquisition perspective. Is there something that you can share your experience with for, indie studios sitting here who cannot get their games published with any of the top publishers, planning or, looking into self-publishing? And if you can inspire with your own stories, I'm sure somebody will take it, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's a relative, this is a relative question to where you are at in your journey. I mean, when one is starting out, you want to make your first $100 a day, right? I mean, everyone sets these targets, then you'll want to get to $1,000 a day in revenue. But right now in the validation stage, perhaps even if you start with $100, first thing that you need to see is, break even. Can your game even get to that point at, that lower spend? Though that doesn't in any way mean that, as soon as you dial up the spends, the same economics will work, because largely another fact and truth that one has to kind of make peace with is that what works at a certain scale will break as soon as that scale is doubled, quadrupled, or 10x, right? So I think it's a very relative question depending on where you are at in your journey. For example, for us now, if a game doesn't make $1,000 a day, we would not spend our time on it. But this wasn't the case until a year back. And I'm sure $1,000 a day would be cute to some other publisher who would say that, exactly. What is the scale you're talking about? So I think largely in the beginning, if it's your first game and it's the first game that you're self-publishing, even $100, $200 a day budget, even if you're getting to 0.7, 0.8, you're getting basically 70 or 80% ROAS, you have to now have that conviction that you can take it to, with optimization, maybe to 100. So first see break even. Once you have seen break even, you will have a little more belief. Then you can add up the spends a little further and see whether how much your CAC breaks and how much your LTV can support. But yeah, largely I think it's like putting the chips. So if you were to think of this as a 6-month experimentation window, I would say broadly, $20,000 to $30,000 minimum, and for a reasonably good game, $100K that you need to even validate whether this works.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good, because we don't want a situation where their game is rejected or low CPI from a publisher and now they kill the project. We want them to take it on, improve the product and start self-publishing. And I think that's a better way to, even if you fail, even if you get to like a break-even point, you can now start looking at, okay, what was wrong in that game and improve moving forward. That was a great input, I guess. My next question is about more automation and AI tools being used by the studios. I wanted to know from you guys, what kind of automation are you looking at or using now or planning to use to make your life easier, to make faster decisions on your games, for creatives, for analytics? How is AI taking over in self-publishing era?
Basically, like, I think AI is prevalent as in like there are a lot of new tools which are coming out in all the sections. Let me start with the design part. So, for example, like Nanobrana has just come. So we use that. You can use VO3 for your video. You can use a lot of other video tools for that, AI tools for that. For development, we use Cursor majorly. We use Claude Code. We use GitHub Codex. ChatGPT Codex, OpenAI Codex. And for like brainstorming and stuff, we use ChatGPT. So I think what we have seen internally is like the development speed has gone way too up, as far as development is concerned, like development in terms of coding and graphics, video generation, creative generation. So all the things are like, I think, accelerating at a speed which is like unfathomable. The things which were like taking, let's say, a week, now it takes maybe a day. Sometimes it takes just an hour. So we use as much as possible. We use as many tools as possible, and we try to understand where we can, implement those things in our flow. Yep. So that helps quite a lot.
Yeah. So I think one other point I just want to add, right? Like, you have to rethink how you are making the games. Like, especially how do you include AI very natively, right? So AI can act as you said, it is a force multiplier, right? So again, I just give more from a product perspective, how you can think, use and use things, right? So let's say we all make design documents, specs and all those things, right? So one thing what really can do is let's create a sort of custom GPTs for your design, for product, for analytics and all those things, right? And you have to feed it with the correct data. So for example, you have all the game design documents, your specs, each small detail, right? Feed it to the model, right? So you can create your, for example, my studio, like Airoclip, we have, say, design custom GPT, right? So what really happens is that, let's say you're testing some feature, A/B test, you will feed on the results to it also. So everything you are doing in the game goes back to there. So let's say now you want to do some feature, improve, say days on retention you want to improve over there, right? You can ideate it at a lot more deeper level rather than a generic level, right? So likewise, you can do a lot more stuff with analytics and all those things. So currently what I do is that I take a screenshot of my retention curve, I put it to my analytic custom GPT which I have, asking why the retention dropped, right? You can look at multiple parameters, like what is working or what is not working, right? So any AI tool will become better if you feed it and be clear with the instructions. Right. So that is something I think which will really value add for you. For example, as I said, right, it's not a simple way to success. We have to do multiple things like what Santosh and Anurag was saying. So it's for you, what are learnings you put into that model, it won't make the same mistake when ideating with it. I think that is why we should think very natively, and that is the only way we can succeed compared to other bigger studios out there across the world.
Perfect. So my next question is, we will take a round on this. is what do you think, what kind of support do you need from your industry leaders, your government here? What is the one thing that you would like to see that the other countries are doing in the gaming space that you would like India to help you with? Yeah. Santosh.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a couple of points we're discussing in the morning. One is, obviously, for young developers starting out, countries like Turkey and all, they have a lot of incentives.
Correct.
They fund the entire UA budget, I mean, to a limit, right? And they give the money back. You were mentioning that Australia also has that same policy. So that really helps, especially the small guy a lot, and that's where it helps a lot. Then the other is, obviously the regulations that exist within that, if departments like GST, etc., can work faster, then, that can help, developers. So, and then the third thing I would say is actually a thing that I've not seen as much in India. Like, one of our investors is Finnish. So in the Finnish ecosystem, we see like massive amount of knowledge sharing.
Yes.
In India, I think people are hesitant to come up. Even if you are okay to share, like nobody just picks up the call or, asks you that, can you help me with X? I mean, I've seen that very rarely that, we are able to, shed away that inhibition and ask. So as an industry, if you want to learn, and
Correct.
I've heard that about Vietnam as well, that, the amount of sharing and security is quite high. So we're able to grow together.
Amazing. What about you, Anurag?
Yeah, I think one more thing that we need to address is also knowing what is it that we don't know. Because, we are competing globally and time is of essence in terms of, everyone with whatever capital they set aside from their own resources or, from if they've raised money, you have to get to the right answer and the right scale at some point of time. And the cost of second guessing is extremely high, right? Like being first principle that we will figure out how this works, that works. So let's say, so being truth-seeking about what is it that we don't know and getting in the right global talent as a consultant, as a, as a full-time employee, whatever it takes to get to an answer, I think that's the other thing which will help us because, I was speaking to someone who has closely tracked how the whole entire MMORPG piece came together for China, and they actually brought in a lot of talent which was working with Ubisoft, EA, Chinese people back to their country to learn from them, and even flew in consultants and got them captive in the country for almost 2-3 years to learn from them. So I think we also should operate from a place of learning rather than, hey, we'll figure it out and we know everything, because that will get us to answers faster. And of course, once we know everything, the other thing is sharing. I can see a lot of that happening. This is my third IGDC, and it's it's been incredible just having conversations around, okay, what mediation do you use? How do you block competitor ads? So I can see all of that already happening. But yeah, as an ecosystem, if we have to kind of break out and compete with Turkey and Vietnam, I think there are certain gaps, specifically around, I think, across all different facets, which we kind of need to, get to speed or get to the same levels faster by learning from them.
Yeah, so just want to add one point. After my discussion, I'm just thinking, how can we make this better, right? So I'm just thinking, what if there is some sort of roll-on fund, which gives 10-20 lakhs to each, developer who want to self-publish their games, right? And then they can get the revenue back. It's like same publishing model, but there is some sort of fund which helps the young developers to start and publish their games. I think that is something which might worth a try, is what I feel.
Yeah, I think all the things are covered.
Sorry?
Everything is covered, I mean.
Oh, that's good. No, we have a lot of knowledge on the panel here, so that's good. So just to wrap up, so that we can open up some Q&A, where do you see the next 5 years of the Indian gaming industry going? Are we looking for more people going global, or people publishing games in India, or they're going to go the publishing route or the self-publishing route? Or I want to just shed some light and get your feedback or your prediction for the next 5 years?
I'll attempt this is a prediction, so I can be. Nobody will go and come and check that 5 years later. But broadly, I feel that. Again, our right to win. I feel, or rather, if building for the world is the right stepping stone to building for India. And why I say that is, see, ultimately, and I'm talking about mobile specifically. I can't comment on PC console. I don't have much experience there. But largely, mobile games, the engagement comes down to the finesse of the game mechanic, right? So, like, if you are building a match 3 game, then you are competing with, let's say, a Candy Crush or any other, like the game from Royal Match. So just because the premise is Indian, that doesn't necessarily mean that someone will play a match 3 game. But because their experience, the player experience that they will yearn for is the same as the best match 3 game out there, and we can get to that level only if we try to compete globally, right? I'm not saying we'll compete in match 3, but any other mechanic, if we have a globally competent mechanic, we can always add that layer of something which is Indian to kind of contextualize that further. So I feel that the right to win for India is to compete globally. Yes, we are coming from behind, but if I mean, there's more investment that goes into the space, and the more number of attempts, it will come at the cost of failure for many of us.
Yeah.
Something will happen, and that will set the precedent for then more games also being built for domestic market.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So next 5 years are very crucial. I think it's very simply put. If you're not able to, I think currently we are lagging behind. If you're not able to go global in next 5 years, then we will miss this person. And if we already missed some part of this one, this is the only way we can do over there, right? That means, as I said, right, we have to have more attempts at that one. And we have to do it at much faster pace. Because you're not competing with, say, we are all Bangalore students. We are not competing with each other. We're competing with someone who's sitting in Turkey, who's sitting in Vietnam. And that's a very fierce competition over there. So,
I mean, it is difficult to predict future.
No, then.
But what I know for certain is, I think AI will definitely speed up the production process. We'll see a lot more games coming out from India and as well as from the world itself. So a lot more competition to, face, and the time would be tougher than what we have right now. That's what my belief is.
No, that's a great setting, obviously.
I mean, I just would add, one curveball prediction might be that I think Indian IP has done well,
Yes.
but there's not been a game associated with that IP. So neither Bahubali or Mirzapur or Stree, I think in a 5 years time, I would hope that there'll be a couple of big Indian game IPs, because I think it seems natural that there should be some homegrown IPs. I mean, I know we had Chota Bheem and
Yes.
Chota Bheem IP games, but I think it can happen in the next 5 years sometime.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much for all your input. We'll open the panel open for QA. So if anybody has any questions for any of the panel members, yeah. Somebody has to give the mic. Okay. If you have a specific question for any of the panel members, just mention it.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. I mean, this session was kind of eye-opening for me, so thank you so much. I just wanted to learn more about self-publishing from the point of view of paid games and free-to-play, because those are 2 different categories, right? So I'd like to know, what standards there are for these 2 categories, both from the point of capital as well as strategy, right? And the other part, it's a second part, 2-part question. So you see that there are specific genres that are tied to each of these categories, right? And then you see your more narrative-driven, content-driven games and puzzle games, as you mentioned, which is in your forte, falling in the paid games category. What is the current interest among Indian publishers for games like that? And do you see it growing over the next few years? And if not, what can help with it?
I mean, I can take the paid games versus free-to-play. So paid games versus free-to-play, I mean, the size of the prize is definitely larger in free-to-play. And, I mean, this is a precedent was set, I think, several years back. I mean, games were paid because they were actually physical goods that you had to buy. And PC console still continues to be that way. But, I mean, there's a reason why, free-to-play is bigger because, it just helps you cast a wider net. That said, it also depends on what kind of business you want to build. Bootstrapped, being laser sharp around a paywall game, and if it's profitable on a subscription model, that can be a very, very good outcome, right? Like, it's an incredibly good outcome. But if you're aiming to build something really, really large, then free-to-play, largely, that's, at least my POV there.
No experience.
Got it.
No experience in paid games as well.
Yep.
I think paid games generally in mobile has, it's a very few and far in between. Like, there are no bigger hits recently also, right? It still works in the PC, this market, but mobile market, paid games are not doing so well, right? Especially with the Apple Arcade and the Google Play. So they're giving some games free over there. But the idea is because if you have a paid game, there are a lot of free-to-play games already available over there. Mostly same mechanic and all those things, right? Why would people play at the upfront? So, yeah. You have one other question, this is the one.
Yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, I think paid games or specific type of genres are now coming out on OTTs, and they are kind of publishing these games because people are not purchasing them essentially, right? What are your thoughts on that?
You mean Netflix specifically, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different strategy. I think it's in line with, what's the sweetener for the user to pay that subscription. So that doesn't mean that, paid games is largely what they're doing is that they are giving you an ad-free experience. Rather, they're giving you the premium experience that you would have had in the free-to-play game based for the same subscription fee that you're paying for Netflix. And sure, in India, we are still paying a very moderate subscription fee compared to globally, but in the US, it's now, they've done a couple of hikes. So it's a way of them to give more value to the users.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
In my experience, I think the Apple Arcade is the most profitable, and I've seen a lot of developers making games just for the Apple Arcade, just because your first the rev share that they give is pretty good, and I think on Google Play it's not that popular, but on Apple Arcade is a very, very popular, especially in the global markets.
Just one more sensitivity around pinning a strategy on something like this is it's a B2B relationship which you're hoping to crack. So unless and until you already have the relationship, don't underwrite it on hope. That's it.
Just because you have a game, they're not going to approve it. So you still have to go through the approval process, have some contacts to get approval. But yes, that's what it is.
Hello. So my question is, if I'm able to, meaning any team or anyone, is able to make a small, medium-sized game, regardless of phone, PC, whatever. And they have funds to make the game and put it out on Steam or any store. The only thing they need is good marketing. So is it, they have two choices now. Either they can go with some marketing firm, people who would specialize in marketing, or go with publishers, right? So what would be a better choice, and what advantages we would get with either one of them?
Sorry, I just want to take one part of your question, probably to challenge the thinking, is I'm going to rephrase your question, and say, if I'm very good at marketing, I just need a game, right? So, in your minds, when you framed the question, 85% of the job was done because you have the game, and you're just deciding how do I go about doing the remaining 10%. But the business of games is not that. The business of game is probably, at the very least 50-50, I would say. Might even be 40-60, right? 40 is the game making and 60 is everything else. So, the mind, does the reality of the business of games, right? So, and when I say marketing, it also includes, is the game, what audience does the game appeal to, right? How do I know that audience? What's the best channel to get to that audience, right? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? If it is TikTok and TikTok's banned in India, what do you do, right? And so on and so forth. So, my first point to you, would be, rethink on how you think about going to market. I think in general, in most businesses or companies, people found the amount of value they put to go to market versus idea is disproportionately wrong. They put a lot more to idea, whereas between go-to-market and execution is where actually your game or your business will get built. All right. So in the second part of the question was around, like, oh, what channel should you, should you do it yourself? Should you find an agency and so on, right?
So the second part was two choices, right? Marketing firm or publisher, right? You have two choices. So
Or self-publishing.
yeah, and self-publishing. So what would be better, or what advantages we have with either of them?
I mean, if you don't have any experience, go for publisher. That is like black and white answer. If you want to learn the tropes of publishing, then do it by yourself. I'm like, what he has said is like correct. I think the major issue is a lot of people are coming into the games out of passion. The first thing is that. Second thing is like there are a lot of people who are like engineers in the past, or maybe like artists in the past who are doing this. But when it comes to reality of business of games, it's way too different than what people perceive, right? So if you don't have any experience, going with the publisher would be the right choice, because it's hell deeper than what you think. And like you might not want to like get into it, and you might not like it. So in my understanding, publishing it by yourself might not prove to be the right choice. Yeah.
Hi. The question I'm going to ask is a bit subjective. In India, we have many good IPs that could have been, the way you mentioned, Chota Bheem or Bahubali or many other IPs. We have so many companies who have a good funding or good funds with them. Why have they not able to hit the West market or the global market?
The Indian IPs are like famous in India. Like the market is in
But the
India.
quality of those games, do you think are matching the quality of what Western market
It certainly
is?
does not. I'm like, from my perspective, it certainly does not. And the bigger issue is like the Indian players, they don't pay. The India is a DAU farm. This is the brutal reality. So you get a lot of users, but you don't get enough money. So what even is Indian developers, what we do is like we target Western market or the tier 1 countries. So that is how the things are working. But having said that, I believe, as he said, that we might have, in the future, we might have a better game, and the market itself is growing in India. So if a good game comes, and if people are willing to pay, we might see a good game. That's what my take is.
Yeah, so it's just that, like, for example, the question, right, why are we not able to make a high quality game with Indian IPs, right? It's a market size, no? Let's say if it's a 100 million market, I can make a high quality game for the Indian market. That is, if it's a 5 million market, why would I spend so much time over there, right? If you look at the global IPs, it just works because there's a bigger market. Or you're making IP for a bigger market. India is some other market for them. So all the AAA games like the BGMIs and the Free Fires, right? If they're made only for India, it won't work. The idea that they're making global games, they're trying to localize for India. So I think that is a major factor. It's more about like again, I think like a business person, it makes sense to me that much effort or not, right? So I think Anurag mentioned the match 3 game made for Indian audience, right? There are some companies who did that one. They're not able to scale that much, right? Because the paying factor, all those comes into picture.
The art and commerce has to work. The commerce is not working right now. That is the biggest issue. That is why the art is not working, in a way.
So, I mean, just to give you another example, Marvel Snap. So it was made by the same people who made Hearthstone. So the mechanic was already, the economy, game design, everything was already perfected. You married an IP on top of it. But this wasn't, I mean, and I think Second Dinner is a Chinese studio, if I'm not mistaken. So, so this is American folklore being told via Chinese studio which has mastered a certain craft. So first we need to master a game mechanic. The premise of the game is what draws you to it. So let me break this down. You get attracted to a game for the impulse. Oh, wow, I mean, it'll be fun to play. But as soon as you start playing it, if it's not challenging enough and if it's not fun enough, no matter what the premise is, you'll leave it, right? So I think we haven't mastered enough game mechanics globally for us to slap an Indian IP on top of it. In fact, if a Western studio were to decide, which already has a game mechanic, if Dreams was to decide that, okay, Royal Match, let's make it, Raja or something, whatever, they will actually succeed on it. So, but of course, they are not choosing this market because India's, casual gaming market is $200 to $300 million, I mean, $400 million maybe. So So size of the prize not there. So I think first we need to capture the mechanic. We talk about Black Myth, Wukong, etc. But it's ultimately like a role-playing game. But China's been making RPGs for a long time, right? So they've mastered the mechanic. So first master the mechanic and the economics of it, and then put culture on it. It'll work. If you do it the other way around, it will get a lot of eyeballs. You will get to top of the charts for one day, right? And then after that, no engagement.
Yeah, we are running short of time. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.